On July the 6th of this year, 4 masked men, armed with pickaxe handles and bottles of ammonia, stole £30,000, which was being transferred to the Frampton branch of the British United Bank. The trial of Harry George Bryant, accused of being one of these men, is reaching its final stage. Bryant is conducting his own defence, and in spite of his criminal record, maintains that the police are trying to frame him. His only witness, his wife, Mrs. Pauline Bryant, is now being cross-examined by the prosecution.
We come now to the bottle of ammonia, Mrs. Bryant. You don't deny, do you, that Sergeant Fisher found it in your kitchen?
No.
And that he found it hidden away at the back of a cupboard?
It wasn't hidden away. It was simply placed at the back of the cupboard for safety.
Safety?
Yes, I have a 6-year-old child. Anything that could cause her harm is naturally put out of her reach.
So you do realise, then, that ammonia is harmful?
Yes.
You told Sergeant Fisher that you used the ammonia as a cleanser, is that correct?
Yes.
Mrs. Bryant, in this day and age, it's possible to buy a multitude of cleansers for every conceivable purpose, most of which are harmless. Why buy an unusual and dangerous one like ammonia?
Well, I don't see the point in buying a multitude of cleaners when one can do the job of quite a few. Anyway, it's cheaper.
Have you ever asked Mr. Bryant to bring home a bottle of ammonia?
No, I don't think so.
I asked because you told Sergeant Fisher that as far as you knew, your husband didn't know you had ammonia, is that correct?
As far as I knew, yes.
And hadn't used it himself for any purpose?
Well, I mean, there wouldn't be any reason for him to.
How do you explain his fingerprints on the bottle, then, Mrs. Bryant?
I don't know. Well, perhaps he was looking for something else in the cupboard and just happened to move it or something.
Or something. Let's see, you say that you were at home all day on the 6th, the day of the robbery. It was a Thursday.
Yes.
And you didn't go out at all, either of you?
No.
Does your daughter attend school, Mrs. Bryant?
Yes, she does.
She's 6, you say?
Yes.
So presumably she doesn't go alone. Someone escorts her.
Yes.
Who, Mrs. Bryant?
Well, I do.
And the 6th was a normal school day, was it not?
Yes.
And your daughter attended school that day? It'd be a simple matter to check the school records, Mrs. Bryant.
Yes, she did.
And you took her?
Yes.
So you weren't in all day?
I forgot about that. It's only a 10-minute walk. I took my daughter to school and came straight home again. My husband was still indoors.
Did you pick her up from school again?
Yes.
That's twice you went out that day.
Well, it was only for a matter of minutes, and both at times when my husband couldn't possibly have... I mean, the robbery took place miles away.
You say you're just a housewife, Mrs. Bryant, but isn't it a fact that you have a part-time job?
No, not really. These friends of ours have a shop. Fruit and veg. I sometimes help them out when they're busy.
Mr. and Mrs. Cooper. They have a shop in the High Street.
Yes.
My information is that you work for them regularly on a Thursday, Friday and Saturday and have done ever since your daughter started school. You go straight to the school and then go on to the shop. Is that right?
No, not always.
I also understand that your husband has an interest in this shop. He's in fact a silent partner, is that right?
I think so.
Do you know if your husband will be calling Mr. and Mrs. Cooper to support your story that you were not at work on the 6th?
No, they couldn't. They've gone away on holiday.
Gone away on holiday. How very convenient. I put it to you, Mrs. Bryant, that you're lying.
No.
I put it to you that you did go to work on the 6th, that you didn't buy that ammonia for cleaning, and that you've concocted this alibi with your husband when you visited him in prison.
No.
All right. Why didn't you go to work that day?
I didn't feel like it. I rang them. I didn't feel very well.
You didn't feel very well? You didn't feel like it?
No, I had an upset stomach.
Caused, no doubt, by anxiety because you knew your husband was going out that day to commit a serious crime.
No.
Mrs. Bryant, this isn't the first time you've given evidence on your husband's behalf, is it? In 1963, he was convicted of receiving, and on that occasion you stood up in court and said it was you, not he, who bought that stolen property without knowing it was stolen. Is that so?
Yes.
And that, too, was because you loved your husband, didn't want to see him go to prison, right?
No, I did buy it.
No more questions, my lord.
Mr. Bryant?
No questions, my lord.
Thank you, Mr. Mrs. Bryant, you may go.
I'm not going to call any more witnesses, my lord. I'll give evidence myself.
Very well, Mr. Bryant. Will you please go into the witness box?
Religion, are you?
CV.
Take the Bible in your right hand and repeat the words on this card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Members of the jury, everything I've said so far has been the truth, so there's no point in repeating it. But I am prepared to answer any questions that anyone may want to ask.
Mr. Bryant, why didn't you help Inspector Collins to move the wardrobe if you had nothing to hide?
Because I'd refused him permission to search the house in the first place. And if I'd have had anything to hide, I'd have thought of a better place than behind a wardrobe.
Because you're an experienced criminal?
Was an experienced criminal, Mr. Logan. And there was a time I couldn't think of anything better than that.
It wasn't it because you assumed you wouldn't even be approached, let alone arrested, for this robbery?
But look, it stands to reason, doesn't it? If I was involved in this robbery, what earthly reason would I have for bringing the balaclava home? I'd dump it. An idiot would think of that.
And you're not an idiot, are you, Mr. Bryant?
Well, I've made my share of mistakes, but I've paid for them. And I've learnt a few things along the way too, and one of them is never, under any circumstances, bring incriminating evidence into your own home.
You set great store by the benefits of experience, do you?
Well, it certainly helps.
Inspector Collins has been a police officer for 16 years. Do you really expect the court to believe that a man of his experience, even supposing there's a grain of truth in your allegations, would be so amateurish and crude in his attempts to fabricate evidence?
He wouldn't be the first. And in any case, they rely on and exploit the myth that so many people believe, that British policemen just don't do that sort of thing.
Have you ever pleaded guilty on the numerous occasions you've been before a court, Mr. Bryant?
Yeah, I think so.
Twice as a juvenile. Twice out of 15 appearances. Presumably you hadn't learnt the ropes of your profession at that time.
Well, only a fool or a masochist volunteers to be punished.
Yet in your address to the court you said you had been convicted, rightly so.
Yes.
But you nevertheless pleaded not guilty.
Yes.
Why?
Well, I just thought that was obvious.
Not to me.
Man of your experience.
Don't be insolent, Bryant. Answer the question.
Well, if you're a villain, as I was at one time, the whole point of the game is to try and get away with it.
Like you're trying to here?
No.
I notice you use the word game, Mr. Bryant. Is that how you view your unlawful behaviour? As a game?
It's just a figure of speech.
No, so you don't think it's a game?
I'm not going to fall into that trap.
You're wriggling, Mr. Bryant.
You're cheating, Mr. Logan.
I warn you, Bryant, this trial is not a game.
I'm sorry, my lord.
I repeat, so you don't think your criminal behaviour is a game?
Well, I don't think of it as anything, no.
No, it's a serious business, isn't it?
What is?
Committing crimes and trying to get away with them.
It's a serious business trying to defend yourself against this system when you've got the form I got, innocent or not. And in this case, I am innocent.
And you say that under oath?
Yes.
An oath which you clearly hold in contempt.
No.
But you've already admitted that you pleaded not guilty to charges on which you were rightly convicted. You gave evidence on those occasions, presumably?
Well, some of them.
Under oath?
I suppose so.
Maintaining your innocence?
If you like.
Well, isn't that lying under oath?
Well, this is different.
Well, why is this case so different from all those others, Mr. Bryant?
Because this time I'm innocent.
Are you? Are you, Mr. Bryant? Or are you just going through your old routine?
Well, there you are, you see. That's what I'm up against, my past.
You insist you've given up the life of crime?
Since I came out of prison last time.
In September 1970?
Yes.
How have you been earning your living since then, Mr. Bryant?
Well, I've got an interest in a couple of businesses.
Oh, would you tell us what those business interests are?
Well, I don't see that that's relevant.
I will decide what is relevant, Mr. Bryant. Answer the question.
Well, I have an interest in two shops. One my wife mentioned, the fruit and veg shop.
And the other one?
Well, it's a second-hand shop, actually. Sell furniture, bric-a-brac, electrical goods, anything, really.
Do you own these businesses?
Well, you might say I've got the biggest interest in them.
So you own them?
Well, they're in my name, but I share the profits equally with the men who run them.
One of whom is Mr. Cooper, the man who is on holiday with his wife and therefore couldn't be here to support your wife's testimony.
That was planned months ago. He didn't know when I'd come to trial.
This Mr. Cooper, he gets an equal share of the profits from that shop?
Yes.
As I understand it, Mr. Bryant, these are not very big shops.
Average.
Yes, but they could hardly be described as large businesses, could they?
But large enough to support me and my family.
Not two little shops, with the profits shared?
Yes.
What sort of car do you run, Mr. Bryant? The make?
Well, it's a Mercedes, actually.
Recent model?
Last year's.
You bought it new?
Yes,
An expensive car by any standards, wouldn't you say?
Now, look, a lot of people run expensive cars they can't really afford. That doesn't necessarily mean anything.
No. But you also have and live in a well-situated and well-appointed house. And you and your wife obviously like good clothes, jewellery, etc., go on expensive holidays. Now, would you say that that was in keeping with the extent of your business interests?
Yes.
All I can say to that, Mr. Bryant, is that the country could do with a man of your acumen to solve its economic problems.
What I'm wondering here, Mr. Logan, is how the accused came to be granted legal aid in the light of what we have heard.
Which may indeed have some bearing on our economic problems, my lord.
Well, there's no mystery about it, my lord. My house is mortgaged, my car's on HP, and when my solicitors had extracted every last penny I could lay my hands on, and still wanted more, I was forced to ask the lower court for legal aid. Well, that's why the barrister I wanted
I don't
declined...
think the jury is concerned with these allegations, Mr. Bryant.
What I'm suggesting, Mr. Bryant...
I know what you're suggesting.
...is that these so-called business interests are simply a front so that you can continue your life of crime behind a veneer of respectability.
Rubbish.
And that your defence, your only defence, is to indulge in the fashionable exercise of attacking the police.
No.
But you confessed just now, did you not, that you lived by stealing and habitually told lies under oath. You're a self-confessed liar and thief. And there's no denying that, is there, Mr. Bryant?